Well, everybody, like I said, throughout the show, you're going to be hearing from the Philly Godfather himself. And for those not familiar with the Philly Godfather, it's my friend Steve, first of all. Other than Billy Walters, Steve's been featured on more sports betting outlets than any other pro bettor, any better, period. I've been with him several times at Fox Studios. And it's just great to have you on. And the reason I want Steve on, keeping it real, obviously I have my own sports show, Inside the Numbers. We have a lot of controversy, Steve, with the referees, obviously. And right now I believe you're in the process of another book, a movie about your life. And I don't want to dive into it real quick. I don't want to say something that I'm not 100% on, but you had mentioned on X or Twitter that there's two more referees other than Tim Donaghy that will be exposed in this new book, new movie, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it on the Netflix special. There's a Netflix special called Flagrant Foul. They interviewed me for like 2 hours. I brought it up, scared the shit out of them, so they didn't use it. In the final cut, I guess they were worried about getting sued or whatnot. But yeah, there's two more refs that we have heavy information on during that time period where Timmy was fixing the games with Jimmy. And no matter what anybody says, they were fixing NBA games. And everybody loves to talk about the integrity of the game, but nobody talks about the integrity of the NBA, because when Jimmy's lawyer threatened to put every NBA on the witness stand, that's when the feds went from a 30-year sentence to a 1-year sentence. Just plead guilty. We'll make it all go away. So if we had put those referees on the stand, then the entire planet would have known that the league has no integrity.
Well, again, I'm not 100% on who they are, but being around you for a long time and knowing Tim Donaghy, I kind of have my own idea who they could be. But again, I'm not 100% on that. But that's how I met you. I remember the day Jimmy called me up looking to speak to Tim, thinking that Tim was in my office. He was very irate. It was, I think, 2012, December of 2012. I had just taken to Tim to the Dallas Knicks game. First time he was at the arena since the scandal. It was out there in the news. I guess Jimmy heard about it and he got a little upset, so he called the office and he was, well, let me talk to him right now. And he goes, you want to meet somebody real? You want to meet the real sports bettors out there? Contact my guy Steve. And that's how I met you shortly after that. And right away, you took me over to Joe Frazier's crew, right, at Joe Handbox. So we go back now a good 11 years, and it just went like that. But, I was already familiar with your work prior, because I've been in the sports betting business since '94 professionally. So obviously I knew who you were. And when the scandal happened in '07, I wasn't surprised. I had my own insights a little bit, but I can't believe it. And right now, more than ever, with sports betting being legal, Steve, it's under a lot of scrutiny. Players betting prop bets, etc. And so what do we expect from these referees moving forward through the finals? It's been a lot, obviously.
Yeah. And there's still an NBA lean. I mean, Timmy talked about it, how they come down before the series and they try and dictate which way the refs are going to call it. The series, watch out for these fouls, let this guy travel a little bit. And, like Timmy said, they knew when the league would come down and try and dictate which way to call the game, which team would win the series, because it's all, there's nothing more powerful than the whistle.
Right.
So I don't care if you're Michael Jordan, I don't care if you're Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I don't care if you're LeBron James. I'll take the ref over all those players any day of the week. Look at Jonte Porter. He got jammed up. He was trying to fix NBA props, and they tried to cash $1 million prop, which was insane.
Right.
And they got caught, and he's been banned for life. So I always tell people, if there's one player fixing games, it's like roaches. If you see one roach, there's a lot more than just one. So whether it's on the college level or the professional level, but they really got to, they got to dig deep. They got to set a bunch of parameters. They got to really try and make sure no one else does this, because, with the internet, everything's exposed.
Right.
Every conspiracy theories, you see things that don't make sense. You're like, what's going on here? So they really got to clamp down, especially now that, sports betting has been legalized everywhere. So the league has a big problem on their hands.
And not every player makes big money. This guy only made a couple of $1 million, which sounds like a lot, but not to an NBA guy out there trying to keep up with the Joneses. I think you had mentioned he only made like 2.5 in 3 years after taxes. it leaves you enough for a Happy Meal. It ain't a lot for those guys that are out spending $100,000 a night. Not all of them, but that lifestyle. And you grew up in Philly, obviously, and this movie and books about your life. And I don't want to compare it to A Bronx Tale because it's different, but it's just, everybody's familiar with The Bronx Tale, the movie Goodfellas, but you grew up on the streets of Philadelphia around the wise guy. You worked hard. Your father was a hard-working guy. I think he ran he had hot dog vending machines and stuff, wagons and stuff. And so you started working hard in Philly as a kid and worked your way up and on the streets, and gambling's been in your blood since you can remember.
Yeah, my dad had hot dog carts. He put me in a hot dog cart at the age of 8.
That's what they are, hot dog. It's been so long.
Hot dogs, meatballs, pretzels, Philly pretzels, some Frank soda. Man, it was a great learning experience because I didn't go to school. I dropped out in 9th grade, and it was the education of my life, working the street, learning the value of a dollar, how to talk to people, how to communicate. That's something that's lost with our youth today because they're always texting on phones. Absolutely. And they never want to talk. Everywhere I go, and I've always had my kids with me everywhere I went, whether it's business meetings, you name it. And everywhere I go, I make sure they watch me. If I get in an elevator, I say hi to everyone. If we're at a restaurant, I say hi to everyone. You got to communicate. You got to talk. You got to express yourself because the reality is you never know who you're sitting next to. So opportunity is always there. If you're not looking for it, you're not going to find it. So I've met a lot of people just by, being friendly, whether at a bar, at a restaurant, at a sporting event. And it's sad to see kids these days, they've lost that art form. And even when you're young and you're trying to pick up some girls, you got to have some game.
They don't talk game to them anymore, the kids.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if Jamie can hear everything.
Yes, I can.
Okay,
yep.
Good. But, I agree 100%. I have a 14-year-old. He's, playing ball. He's out there. He had his first girlfriend, lasted 3 weeks, and that was it. Lights out after 3 weeks. But I'm glad. He's too young to be.
He's too young to date.
Anyway, but I have my other son will be 20, and you're right. But they're street smart, even though I kind of pampered them a little bit.
Well, we exposed them, like Steve was just saying. We took our kids and we exposed them to everything. We're not the parents that are like, shh, don't talk that, in front of the kids. We're like, no, they hear it all, and I think it's good for them because then they're prepared in life as they get older because of that.
Right.
Like your boys.
Yeah, you have to have some street smarts, but it doesn't hurt to have the book smarts. But
absolutely,
but you have to be out there, and you're right. Communication, it's missing, and it's sad. It really is. So anyway, we're down to the semifinals, pal. Tight. 3 series are tied at 2-2. Boston's controlling 3-1 over Cleveland. Your thoughts. Again, we're doing this interview on a Tuesday. Anything can happen tonight. The show's usually out on a Wednesday or a Thursday. But your thoughts on the overall. Who should we see? Boston obviously is the favorite, right? If there's going to be one team that can slide in that shouldn't be there or nobody expected them to be there, who could that be?
I mean, Minnesota's really good. Number 1 defensively in the entire season. They got some playmakers. They got Baby Jordan on that team. They can, offensively, they're strong. Defensively, they were number 1 all season. Dallas Mavericks, they got Luka and they got Kyrie. That's a tough series with a young, athletic OKC team, and that's all tied up. I actually have the Mavericks to win that series. I bet it before the series started at even money. It's a coin flip. Probably goes 7 games. Same with the Denver Nuggets and Minnesota here. I had taken plus 180 on Minnesota only because of the price. I think both teams are, pretty much equal. And if you're giving me plus money on a coin flip, I'll take the plus money every time. And Denver did win the championship last year. We had them at 21-1 before the season started. So it's always hard to repeat. So I try to X those teams out, even though they got Jokic and they got a superstar team that's stacked, and they were down 2-0 and they came back 2-2. But I think Minnesota advances. I think Dallas advances. And the Celtics have had the easiest road there. I mean, the Cavs are the Cavs, so they're probably going to get there. Even though the Knicks are a real gritty team, but they're a little banged up. Right. And the Pacers, they're looking strong. So, we'll see what happens. But I think it's going to be the Celtics and either Minnesota or Dallas.
One of the things you're known for is your future bets, whether it's the Super Bowl, the college championship game, the finals, baseball. You guys do it all. And, I've seen a lot of gamblers come and go over the years, Steve. I've been on radio since 94, but honestly, I've never seen a crew like yourself, the animals, your own kids, the 8 Ball, the college kids. You groom them, and they're not just successful in sports betting, but in life. I know Your son Matt has his own talk show. He interviews a lot of the Philly crew out there, and you have quite the story. You know, I look forward to. There's been a lot of shows, a lot of movies, books. You've been in them. I'm looking forward to your story alone, to focus on you, because a lot of the focus has been on Jimmy, etc. You know, obviously, but you were one of the guys behind the scene, and to this day, now you're the face of everybody. You know, back then there was, you know, in your book you'll talk about it, but you were kind of in the shadows for various reasons. But you are now the face of the Animals for the last 12, 13 years.
Yeah, and it's crazy because, you know, the things I was involved with were taboo back then. And now they're the two hottest things in the country, whether it's the weed market and the sports betting market.
Okay.
And back then, I was so scared to get on the phone and talk to people. I would fly out to Arizona and just to talk to someone. I would fly to New York, Costa Rica. And now, you know, it's fashionable, it's sexy. Everybody wants to be involved in it. It's become, you know, it's done a full 180. So yeah, now I'm out there, and the statute of limitations are up on everything. Now I can be open about everything in the book. A lot of guys died already that, you know, were a little scary if you want to talk about them.
Right.
So yeah, it's a genuine story, and I think that translates on the internet. You know, right away you can tell if someone's trying to sell you or bullshit you a story. You know, it's not true. It doesn't take long for them to get exposed. My story is a story about, you know, an immigrant Greek, you know, father of 3 kids, and my mom. They left a socialist country back in 1969 with $200 in their pocket. They came to America to get a slice of the American dream. I was born, you know, a year later, and we struggled. I mean, I remember my father, you know, we didn't have cereal. We couldn't afford cereal. All of my friends were eating cereal. My dad would get the day-old bread he had from, you know, working as a busboy, crumple it up in the milk that he cut with water, and he put some sugar on top, and that was our cereal. And that's just some of the few things, you know, he had to do to sacrifice to stretch the dollar, because, you know, at that time he was making $1 a week, working 90 hours a week. My mom was making $100 a week as a seamstress. So they had to raise 4 kids on $200 a week, which, you know, was a lot more back then, but still it wasn't much.
Right.
And he worked his ass off, saved up some money, bought a hot dog cart, and slowly he started making some money. But the hot dog cart wasn't for me. I was in the street. I was hustling. I always wanted to earn. And when I was 18, I met some sharp guys that were moving games for guys out in Vegas for some of the sharpest sports bettors in the world back then. And that's how I got acclimated to the business. Next thing you know, I'm in an office with 50 other guys that were betting money, big money, we're moving money. But I always knew there was an expiration date on that job as a mover. They used to call us movers back then, because you couldn't keep finding bookmakers. Well, then they didn't need you no more. Then you couldn't make no money. So what I started doing is I tried to reverse engineer the game. They start sending us every day. And slowly but surely, I started identifying the variables, the factors of why they're betting certain baseball games, why they're betting certain football games. And next thing you know, before they would send us the moves, I already had them written down, and they would start matching up. And the more they matched up, the more I knew I was handicapping the right way. And that's how I became an originator, a guy that moves the sports betting market, a guy that, you know, makes a living betting on sports. And obviously there was a lot of money in the weed market back then. I wasn't selling dimes in the park. You know, we were doing tonnage. And next, you know, I'm in the jungles of Mexico with the cartel, and we're bringing back tractor trailers. So I was, you know, and people were like, well, if you're making money, you know, betting on sports, why would you do that? Because you never have enough money. Right. You just don't. I don't care who you are. Look at Bill Gates. Look at the owner of Dallas Mavericks. They're always trying to find new revenue buckets, new revenue streams, new businesses to make more and more. And as we've, you know, noticed in the last 5 years, inflation is through the roof. So whatever you thought you had got cut in half. And now you got to go back on that horn and keep making money, because if you got kids, you want to look out for their best, you know, interest in the future, because you don't know what's going to happen. So, and plus I like the action. I mean, you're always in action.
Let's cut to chase. That's what you like. You like the hustle.
It is being, you know, it's keeping it real.
It is. That's why we do our show, Keeping It Real. You've heard us. You've been with us in New York. We've done many shows together. Actually, Keeping It Real originated with you on the first show back in 2013. I think Daryl Dawkins was on the first or second show with us.
With the Godfather?
Yeah. Wow. We had David Purdom. He was so... David Purdom, you know, now I think he's still with ESPN. I'm not sure, but seemed like yesterday. But that's where Keeping It Real originated, about how hard it actually is to bet on sports. You know, everybody thinks it's so easy, especially today with all the information out there. 90% of the information is garbage, you know. You know what? And all the free games out there, it's not free if you're losing money, right? So you're paying somebody. That's why when they follow you on X now, I still can't. I always want to say Twitter. You guys are legitimate. You're posting your record, win or lose. You got the nice breakdown sheet. If you follow, you got to be consistent, number one, right? So before we let you go, because I know you got a busy slate today, what's your advice to today's gambler, the new generation of sports bettors that are betting the props, you know, because I think more people now are betting, especially the new bettors, they're more betting the player props than sides and totals.
You got to keep track of all your winnings. You got to know exactly where you're up, where you're down. You got to, you know, monitor everything. Bankroll management is huge. Money management. You can't go chasing if you lose. You got to take it on the chin. There's going to be good days. There's going to be bad days. And try and learn from the best, and try and figure out why are they betting these games. You know, there's some good guys out there. You, me, a couple of my friends. You know, the animals, obviously. But pay attention to why they're betting those games, and try and reverse engineer those games, those positions. And it's a market like any other market. So if you treat it like a business, it's going to pay like a business. If you treat it like entertainment, it's going to cost you like entertainment. You go to a concert, get front row seats, pay $5,000. 3 hours later, you're out of money. You had a good time. But, you know, you spent $5,000. So it depends what you want to do with it. If you can find a little niche, you know, if you really pay attention to like your home teams or the colleges around you, and you read as many articles as possible, you pay attention to the injuries, and you got to know what the price is, and you got to be able to identify value. And that's what it comes down to. If you can identify value, just like any other market, you know, you look to go buy a house. If you spend 1 hour looking around compared to 100 hours looking at 100 houses, you got a better chance of finding value if you look at 100 houses than just 1 or 2. So
Right.
If you just wake up on a Sunday and say, this team looked great last week, I'm betting them this week, well, chances are you're going to lose. But if you spend 10 to 20 hours researching a game, you got a better chance of winning. And the break even, 52.2% when you're risking 100. So,
if you have 20 hours a week to spend doing this, chances are you're a professional, because most people are working 40 hours a week and they come at this, they wake up, they turn on the internet, or Stephen A. Smith likes this and this one's, it's not for everybody. And you have to have the money, you know, to allocate. Like you said, most businesses fail, Steve, because they're underfunded, right? You got a great idea. I'm going to do this. I'm going to open up, but I only got $50,000 with a $500,000 idea. So I guess, you know, it all goes hand in hand, but also being a good sport. Like, you guys are honest. You have great runs and you have some shitty runs where you lose 5 games in a row. It happens. It happens to the best. You know, there's good weeks, there's great weeks, and, you know, some weeks are better than others. Some months, some sports are better than others, you know. So, final words, Steve, from the PhillyGodfather.com. I mean, it was great. It's been too long. It's been about 4 years since we last had you on.
I'll tell you guys, I love you. Every time I'm with you guys treat me so good. I love you, your wife, your kids. You guys are awesome. I had some of the best times with you up in Hoboken at Milo's restaurant up in New York City. You guys are the best. Advice, I usually tweet it out that my hockey sucks. So don't ever bet my hockey on Twitter. And I'm 100% honest about it. But every other sport, I do pretty well. So that's about it, man. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. Keep kicking ass.
Well, thanks, Steve, from the PhillyGodfather.com. Always a pleasure, and I'll hit you up in August, talk some football. Have a great one, my friend.
You got it. Thanks, guys.
Bye.